This is Biz Unlimited, and I'm Cam Raslan. This week's episode, Women in the Workforce. Now, around 60% of Malaysian university graduates are women, but many leave the workforce after only a few years and never return. From being a majority, women become a minority of Malaysian skilled workers. The reasons are simple: to raise a family, or because the work culture is just too male. But with the Malaysian workforce being relatively small, only 12 million, this loss is an issue. Can this trend be reversed? And why does it make business sense for an organization to do what it can to retain this pool? To find out, I spoke to three people: the head of TalentCorp, then a corporate headhunter, and finally the head of human resources at the Malaysian office of a major multinational. Johan Merikan is the CEO of TalentCorp, a government agency given the task of retaining Malaysia's best talent. Women in the workforce, is there a problem? Surely not, because at the moment we have 60% of graduates are women. And the SC is talking about, at some unspecified future date, that 30% of board members should be women. So, what's the problem?
Well, if you look at the current statistics, and if you look at what we call the female labour participation rate in the workforce, we only have about 47%. And what we mean is that out of a population of 100 women, only 47 are working. Now, that is low by international and regional standards. We're not even talking about comparing to developed nations, but even our regional neighbours like Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, are within up to the 60%. And so really, yes, you have this pipeline, but the statistics bear out that as a population as a whole, our participation rate really is low by international standards. Now, so we have a problem if that increasingly our graduates are women. More than 60% of universities are churning out graduates, and I think in a matter of time before it's a ratio of 2 women graduates to one graduate. But if we're not able to keep them in the workforce, then clearly you have a problem, because then your significant portion of your talent pool are women, and they're not staying in the workforce, then you're really going to be not optimizing on this key talent pool.
But isn't this the way of the world, though? I mean, surely, women enter the workforce and then in their, say, mid-20s, they might have children. This is how it happens everywhere. Why should we think that Malaysia might be in any way different?
Actually, it's interesting because the World Bank recently came out with a report, the Malaysian Economic Monitor, titled Modern Jobs in April 2012, very recently. And they actually highlighted how Malaysia, compared to regional international standards, one, the participation rate is lower. Another phenomenon which they also highlighted was that you have this thing where the participation rate peaks in the 20s, where they just come out of university, and then it falls off. They point out that in other Asian countries, the same sort of cultural values like Japan or Korea, you have the situation where, yes, it falls off after marriage and childbirth, but it comes back. Women take maybe a career break, but it comes back. And you don't have that profile in Malaysia. So, yes, there are these similar trends elsewhere, but as a country, we have a lower participation rate, and we do not have this ability to facilitate women who have taken a career break, whether for childbirth or looking after parents, to then return to the workforce later.
Is this then considered to be, an issue, a problem?
Well, for Talent Corporation, our mission is really looking at how do we facilitate the economic transformation program, recognizing talent as a key enabler and potentially constraint from us achieving our ambitions under the economic transformation program. So we recognize that with the economic transformation program, we're generating over 3 million jobs. We're looking to all the different pools of talent. Talent Corporation even looks at Malaysians abroad, foreign talent. Now women as a talent pool, is this talent pool right in our country? Many of them qualified. And the statistics that are being borne out show that we're not obviously fully optimizing on this talent pool. And I think that is the reason why the government is now increasingly looking at this issue on how can we unlock this, if you call it a latent talent pool, so that they too can best contribute towards our economic transformation ambitions.
Priya Bala is country manager at FireBrand Talent, corporate headhunters specializing in the media and communications industry. So you're a headhunter specializing in marketing, communications, creative, remind me?
Yeah, marketing, creative and communications.
Oh, I just got it the wrong way around,
yes.
okay. And in your experience as a headhunter, I mean, essentially you have two clients, don't you? The employer and the employee.
That's right.
So hopefully you can help us understand both worlds a little bit. We're looking specifically at women who are returning to the workforce after being away. Are you meeting women who are in that position?
Yes, we do. We do have talent who are coming back to us, looking to get back into the workforce after taking a couple of years off.
And what kind of fears or hopes do they have as they're entering the workforce?
Returning talent. Usually their worries are whether they have been able to keep up with the industry, whether their knowledge is up to par, whether they're still competitive, what kind of salaries they might be able to earn coming back, things like that. In addition to that, actually one of the other fears that some of them have is the working hours and whether they can keep up with that, because they probably have still got small children and responsibilities that they need to go back to. So those are some of the concerns that they would have coming back. A lot of our clients are actually already providing for working moms by providing flexible work practices, allowing them to work from home. And again, technology has a big part to play, because nowadays with internet connectivity, you don't really need to be physically at an office to do your job. So they are allowing for a certain level of flexibility, which helps a lot, which gives the returning lady worker some level of comfort.
Is this a major trend? I mean, are you finding many employers adopting these rather enlightened policies?
Yeah, actually increasingly they are providing for it. They have to, because the majority of the talent force in these industries or within the space that we work in are female.
So this issue of women in employment are raised, and even when the Securities Commission announced promoting women at the boardroom, I think sometimes the problem is that some people then misinterpret this as some form of welfare or social or of CSR sort of consideration. I think what we really need to position this issue of women in employment is really from a business case point of view, if you could call it almost an economic imperative. What I mean by that is that it's an economic imperative because the ETP needs talent. And clearly, if we're not fully realizing or optimizing on this talent for women, we are not going to be able to achieve as much as we would like to as an economy. Now, the business case arises that, again, we don't want companies thinking that, oh, let's have nice policies for women because then it makes us look as a very progressive or happy employer in the eyes of its customers or other stakeholders. What we're trying to say is that it's good for business. Because if you have your talent pool coming out of universities and they're predominantly, increasingly women, and you're not keeping them in your workforce, you're going to have a problem. Because then you're not going to have that required talent pool for your business to continue prospering. And we're seeing that in numbers that, I mentioned about overall 47%. But in terms of representation of women in senior to middle management, it's only about 11%. And in boardrooms in Malaysia, only 6% are women. So there's clearly this leakage of women talent at the highest levels.
Saguna Viramandi is the Human Resources Director at the Malaysian offices of General Electric. GE has an international reputation for fair employment practices. I wanted to find out if this was merely cosmetic or if it's a corporate philosophy based on business principles. What's the benefit for a multinational engineering company like GE to go to the effort of attracting and retaining women?
That's a fantastic question. It's part of our diversity program that we have internationally. We also felt, if you're just talking from a Malaysia standpoint, where I represent the HR function as well as the women's network in GE in Malaysia, one of the things we realize is that we do not have enough women sitting in some of our managerial positions or even decision-making positions. You can certainly see we are a very technology-driven company, and at the moment it's dominated by male, for example, and we see opportunities to increase the participation of women, right? So that's one reason why we are also looking at encouraging the women force into the organization. And one of the things that the GE Women Network does, it actually you know, the mission of the GE Women's Network is to foster professional women's growth in the organization. So there's really many things that we do in terms of giving opportunities. It could be even networking opportunities for the women. It's a lot of training programs for the women. There's a lot of activities that we do, for example, just to help the ladies to be more confident in themselves.
I'm just wondering, in terms of women in the work, is this tokenism? Is this just positive discrimination? I mean, is there any particular reason why GE would want to attract women workers?
Currently, of course, like I said, it's our philosophy in fair employment practices. We do see there's a gap there and we want to increase the participation. But many other things that we have seen that as an organization, right, when you have that diversity, whether from a gender perspective or whether from an educational background perspective, you tend to have a better impact in the innovation that you do in an organization. So we certainly see as a key, diversity as a key element in making an impact in the organization. And one way we see is by helping in increasing the women participation in the organization.
And interesting, you have studies, and I think there have been many studies. One particularly was done by McKinsey's, and where they found that when they looked at companies in the US, and they saw which companies had, say, at least a 30% diversity, at least women in leadership or decision-making roles, companies with that 30% outperformed companies without, whether from a financial point of view, from a employee engagement point of view, really across many metrics, companies do better when there is that diversity. I think in the case multinationals, I think ahead of the curve in terms of having flexible working arrangements, supporting longer maternities, crash in companies, and all the rest of it. I think partly because HQ, wherever it is a lot more aware of the issues, and in a sense, applying that or spreading that policy to be implemented in Malaysia by their local companies or subsidiaries. I think Malaysian companies haven't really come up the curve in this space, and we hope that we can gain perhaps best practices, share this awareness, particularly Malaysian companies, to bring them on board on this issue, because really, their future of their business depends on it.